Hi and welcome to 5 on Fridays. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ashley Harris and I am the dietitian working with the City of Columbus. And today we're talking about bouncing back from holiday eating. So whether we've already done some damage, we still have a little time left in the holidays that we can hopefully circumvent some of that damage being done. But just want to talk to you about some strategies to get you back to that healthy weight once the holidays are over. And before we get into this, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our Healthy Columbus YouTube channel where you'll be notified about content like this and more. Do you know the average American gains between 1 and 5 pounds during the holiday season, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal. However, most never take it off. So even if it was just 1 pound and you think about that, 10 years, that's 10 pounds. Say it was 2 pounds, that's 20 pounds. So we really want to make good decisions during the holiday season. So if I've caught you in time, awesome, but we also just want to bounce back. Say we indulged a little too much. So I want to talk about some strategies today. If either I've caught you in time to kind of circumvent some of that holiday eating and weight gain, or just give you strategies to bounce back and get rid of those unwanted pounds before the year moves on. So why do we gain so much weight during the holidays? I mean, don't beat yourself up over it. If you think about it, it's like that perfect trifecta, that perfect storm for weight gain. So first of all, there's more food around, there's holiday parties, there's treats in the home, there's treats in the office, there's holiday dinners, there's gatherings. Then we're moving less, right? So there's more food, but we're busy. It's cold out, it's getting dark earlier. And then finally, the stress. And actually stress can have a significant impact on our weight, both with what we eat and our metabolism. And this time of year, we're stressed out. So it's kind of that perfect recipe to pack on those extra pounds. One thing to keep in mind is a little goes a long way, especially when we're talking calories. So an extra 100 calories a day, which while that might not seem like a lot, same thing, 100 calories a day in a year, that in and of itself is a 10-pound weight gain. Then when we're looking at that weight loss, also keeping in mind that 100 calories a day, it adds up the other way. So if we are able to cut 100 calories through little tweaks to our diet or even more, that's gonna be helpful. Or keeping in mind 2,000 steps equals about 100 calories. So as many steps as we get in, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but when we're talking cumulative and over time, it can have a huge impact for better or for worse. So I have 4 steps for you. The first is to be aware of how much we're eating. The second is to be aware of the quality of food that we're eating. The third is going to be to move more. The fourth is going to be to stress less. And I'm going to walk you through all 4 of those steps. First, when it comes to how much we're eating. And one of the things to consider is that portion sizes have grown throughout the years. So if you look at a bagel made like 30 years ago versus a bagel made today, there's a huge difference, a couple 100 calorie difference. So keeping in mind that we're served bigger portions, we have this tendency to just kind of like finish whatever we're served. So getting in the habit of pre-portioning things out, not just going ahead and accepting, great, this is my portion and I finish it, but really tapping into your hunger cues. And then using smaller plates and dishware. So there was some really interesting research done on, again, why we eat, what we eat, and how much we eat. And they started looking at people's plate sizes. And so I have 2 different plate sizes right here. And they actually looked, in this particular study, they filled like an 8-inch plate up with food, did a calorie analysis on the food, it was about 800 calories. Then they filled up a 12-inch plate in the same portions of that food. That was 1,900 calories, meaning you could fill this small plate twice, finish your plate, go have seconds, you would still come in with less calories than if you filled up this big plate. So if you get in the habit of having these smaller plates, and whether this is eating at home or you're at a party and there's different plate options, always try to choose those smaller plates and glasses. My other thing, and I recommend this all the time, and I recommend this if you're in the throes of the holiday still or if it's afterwards, but the half plate rule. And basically what this is saying is always fill up half your plate with vegetables. So in a perfect world, a perfect plate would be like a quarter protein, a quarter starch, half this plate vegetables. What it's going to do is the vegetables, they're about 1/3 of the calories, if even that, of most of the other food. They're full of fiber, so it helps fill you up without adding a lot of extra calories. And then they're loaded with extra nutrients, which is a great thing. You can even do this, say you had a piece of pizza, right? Say it's like Friday pizza night, or you're at like a holiday dinner where it's like less healthy food, so you can't control that. Think of like a piece of pizza this big. The crust is going to be your starch. We got protein with the cheese, maybe there's some chicken or something else on there. If for every pizza like this, we did this many vegetables, think about it, like a slice of pizza here, this many vegetables. And say you went back for seconds, you did a second slice of pizza, more vegetables, how much are you gonna get through? You know, you're gonna fill yourself up with those vegetables. So again, this is such a good technique for preventing overeating, you know, in the holidays, and then if we're trying to bounce back afterwards. Some other tips, just when we're kind of talking about like how much we eat, controlling the things that distract us. So again, tons of research showing when we're distracted, we tend to eat more. So this means like not sitting in front of the TV and just like munching through your snacks, not eating directly out of the carton or the bag, you know, pre-portion it out. Even other things that influence it, like music. So when we eat fast music, you know, we tend to like shove down our food. So turn off the TV, put on like calm, relaxing music. Also keeping in mind that it takes 20 minutes for our brains to register how full our stomach feels. Again, whether you're at home or a party, you know, filling up your small plate, eating till you're, you know, okay, either finish the plate or you're feeling at a good spot, then take some time, you know, chat with people, maybe go for a walk around the block, maybe pick up the phone and call somebody, go brush your teeth, you know, do these things that distract you. If in 20 minutes you are still genuinely hungry, sure, go back, but then keep in mind you're going back for like 1 bite of chicken, 1 bite of potatoes, 2 bites of broccoli, you know, in that kind of same portion. And then 2 other tips. So one is kind of avoiding that family style portions, you know, having the big plates of food on your dinner table. If you're gonna do that, I would say only put the veggies out. So if you're like tempted to sit there and grab more, you're only grabbing vegetables. If you're going to get the more higher calorie things, you've got to like make a trip to the kitchen. Same thing with when you eat out. You know, one of my tricks is I love to just say box up half of this before I even get started. Because we've all been there and like you finish some of your food and then you're waiting for the server to come to, you know, box up your stuff and you have a few more bites and then it's like, oh, I only have 5 more bites left, then you eat it, you're uncomfortably full, when that could have been lunch or dinner the next day. The last thing is if you are going to holiday parties still, you know, if I've caught you because we're still in this in-between time, there's a couple techniques there. So same thing, you know, filling up half your plate with veggies, choosing those smaller plates, but other things are try filling up before you go. Like if you walk into that party ravenous, you're gonna make all sorts of bad choices. I love to actually do a handful of nuts before I go in. It's gonna kind of help me right there to just like approach things from a more rational angle. The rule of 2, which is you only put 2 things on your plate and then you get far away from the food. So when you gotta go back, you have to be consciously aware of, I'm walking back, you know, across the room, I'm putting 2 more things on my plate. And the other is just filling up on the lower calorie stuff first. So if there's veggies, if there's fruit, you know, salads, eat that, and then you can kind of splurge on the little treats, but you're not just diving in first with those high calorie treats. So the next step is good food choices. And what am I talking about here? Mostly plant foods. You know, most plant foods, and especially those fruits and vegetables, are gonna be significantly less calories. And they're full of fiber and other good nutrients, so they're gonna fill you up and they're gonna provide health benefits. So, you know, my rule of half plate veggies, you're gonna knock it out the park. Another thing though is I like to keep the good, healthy things out and visible. So again, when research is done into like why we eat what we eat, there's actually a really interesting study done with secretaries in the month of December. And they put these jars of Hershey Kisses on their desks, and half were in glass and they had a lid containers, half were in opaque containers. And every night they'd, you know, see how much was eaten and they'd fill everyone's up. After the month, the people that had it in the glass containers, those secretaries ate 77% more. And this was still, they knew the Hershey Kisses were on their desk, they just couldn't actually see it. So if it's possible, keeping the junk and sweets and treats out of your house, I know that's not always possible, so at least like tuck it up into a cabinet. And then I do things like I have bowls of oranges, I have blueberries, I have nuts that are out. So when I do kind of wander by, it's like, oh yeah, I'll snack on this orange, or I'll have a handful of blueberries. Nuts, and they are plant foods, they're great, they're super healthy for you. Just a little rule of thumb, they do tend to be calorie dense. So like 2 tablespoons to a quarter cup's good, or I just do like a handful right here. Keeping things, you know, if you have vegetables, like wash them, cut them up. So if I open the fridge, it's like, great, here's some cut up peppers or cut up cucumbers or something good that I can have that's easy and accessible. The other thing is when you cook, you can get really creative with the cooking. So doing something like substituting pumpkin in for like an oil or a fat that you cook with, it adds moisture, it's a lot less calories, and you can either buy pumpkin puree, or I, you know, cook up pumpkins all the time. I even have some in my fridge right now, and you can just puree up your own pumpkin pulp. You don't want to get a pumpkin spice, be careful about that. And just a rule of thumb is you multiply whatever the oil should be by 3/4. So if it called for like a cup of butter, you could use 3/4 cup of pumpkin. There's all sorts of other great substitutions out there like that. And the last thing I'll say with this is spice it up. You know, we tend to throw a lot of salt into our foods. We want it to taste good, and everyone's doing it because they want like their dish they brought to the holiday party to be really tasty. Using herbs and spices, it gives it a lot of flavor without adding in the sodium. So especially if you're watching your sodium for a particular reason, for like heart disease or blood pressure, just in general, all of us, the more sodium we have, the more water weight we're gonna pack on, so you wanna minimize that. All right, so step 3 is moving more. And I know it's like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, I don't want to work out. Just keep in mind, movement can come in so many different shapes and forms. And there's tons and tons of benefits. Obviously for our weight, for moving, the more we move, the more calories we're burning, but it boosts so many things in our body. It's gonna boost our immune system. It's gonna boost our mood. And this being a time of year that we can get kind of a little down and that seasonal affective disorder, even getting outside for like 5 minutes a day can boost our mood. If we're moving and walking during that, even better. It's gonna release those endorphins that make us feel good when we exercise. And really benefits are seen with as little as 30 minutes a day. And it doesn't have to all be at once. So maybe you could do a 10-minute walk in the morning, maybe you get 15 minutes at lunch, and then you get 5 minutes at the end of the day. Awesome, all that exercise is cumulative and every step counts. And really benefits are seen with as little as 30 minutes a day. And it doesn't have to all be at once. So maybe you could do a 10-minute walk in the morning, maybe you get 15 minutes at lunch, and then you get 5 minutes at the end of the day. Awesome, all that exercise is cumulative and every step counts. Ideas too at this time of year, I know it's so it's one of the things I love to do, I'll put on music and make my cleaning an aerobic activity, and it's also fun. I'll also put on music and dance with my nephews, and it's exhausting. So you don't need to be outside, you can be doing fun things, but taking family walks, maybe taking the kids sledding. I don't know if you've tried to walk up a snow hill lately, it's really challenging. Parking a little further away, taking the stairs as much as possible, just kind of getting in the habit of every little moment can count, and so being as active as possible. So my last point is lowering our stress. And again, this is something that's gonna always be important, both to feel good, but we know that when we are stressed, it can decrease our immunity, decreases our metabolism. So one, we can stress eat, right? We've all been victim to it, and there's a reason why. When we actually eat a lot of the comfort foods, so think sweets, macaroni and cheese, all of these really high carbohydrate foods, it actually releases serotonin in our body, and that's that feel-good chemical. So we've kind of learned subconsciously through the years, it's I'm feeling stressed, and I reach for this cookie and I feel better for a minute. But then what happens, and I'll explain in a second, it kind of throws us into a tailspin with our blood sugar, which then exacerbates our stress. But independent of stress eating, when we are stressed, it lowers our metabolism on average about 100 calories a day. And in a year, that could be a 10-pound weight gain, not from eating more or moving less, simply from our metabolism being slowed due to stress. So as we're trying to fight off these holiday pounds or get back on track after gaining a few, we really want to keep our stress in check. So one way to do this is avoid things that can exacerbate our stress, which are typically things we go for when we are stressed, so sugar, caffeine, and alcohol. However, as I just mentioned, those carbohydrates that all foods that are carbohydrates turn to sugar in our blood eventually, but we have the simple ones, so juice, soda, cookies, cake, candy. We eat them, they're very simple for our bodies to break down, our blood sugar spikes. These we want to avoid, because when our blood sugar spikes and then it crashes, and then we usually want something else and it spikes and crashes, that's going to make our stress and anxiety worse. Rather, we want to choose a complex carbohydrate. And so this would be things like whole grain products, a whole fruit, these blueberries or oranges are perfect examples. Other whole grains like oats, quinoa, those types of things. Some of the starchier vegetables too, so sweet potatoes and squash. So they're more complex for our body to break down. They've got more fiber in there. So rather than our blood sugar shooting up, it's a more gradual rise. Then the other piece is we throw a healthy protein with it. And that even further slows that absorption of sugars into our system. So say I have this orange and I have a little handful of cashews, that's gonna be perfect. And instead of a spike and a crash, or even a gradual rise and a crash, it's a nice gradual rise. You're not crashing out, so our sugars are gonna be more stable. So especially right now, just kind of keep in mind, we always wanna be having a complex carbohydrate with a healthy protein. And protein could be meat, fish, chicken, of course, eggs, Greek yogurt's a great source, nuts, seeds, hummus, beans, all of those are great plant-based sources of carbohydrates. And every couple hours, you want that nice little balance. And then there's other things that we can do to manage stress. So just do things that are enjoyable. First of all, say no, don't overbook ourselves. Get outside. That fresh air and being around the green space is gonna boost your mood and lower your stress. Take a bath, read a book, put on a meditation podcast, take a few minutes to just do some deep breathing. All of those could be great techniques. So I hope some of those tips were helpful to get you through the rest of this holiday season and then bounce back afterwards. If you have any strategies to help get you through the holidays that I didn't mention, please comment below. And then don't forget to like and subscribe to the Healthy Columbus YouTube channel, where you get content like this and more. That's it for 5 on Fridays today, and we'll see you next week.